Just a few little pot plants here and there, and I can't believe what a difference that makes. I'm sorry. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Minecraft The Journey with me, bugmancx, and here we are in episode 101. 101, can you believe it? We've done a century of episodes in this series, and that is absolutely amazing. If you watched episode 100, we did a massive world tour, and I had a number of special guests join me on that, so I want to say thank you to all of them for joining me. We had a really good time. And I also want to remind you that there is a world download available to you. If you want to download this world for yourself and explore it on your own or explore it with some friends, all you need to do is be a member of my Discord, where you will find links on how to download this world for yourself. So I really hope that you enjoy that. Well, here we are in Minecraft Beta 1.7, and there are a few new things to explore. But I think what's more interesting about Beta 1.7 is its history. There's quite a bit to talk about in this episode and probably the next couple of episodes too. So I'm going to get myself prepared, and then we're going to get started on talking about how this version came to be and why Beta 1.7 is so important to so many players. And so, what exactly did I mean by all of that? Well, around this time, Notch and the team were eager to get Minecraft out of beta and ship a proper release version 1.0. In order to do that, they wanted a big update, and so they came up with the Adventure Update. This would be a massive update to the game, which changes some fairly fundamental gameplay mechanics and really shifts the game into its next paradigm. Beta 1.7 was originally planned to be that massive update, with Notch saying, "We are working on Minecraft Beta 1.7, which I'm referring to as the Adventure Update. We're keeping the details secret so people can get surprises. The idea with this update is to flesh out the game a bit, making it reward exploration and combat more. Assuming we like them in playtesting, pistons are coming in 1.7. So sure, we get a confirmation of pistons, but all that extra stuff, fleshing out the game a bit, rewarding exploration and combat, that all sounds great. Right? Beta 1.7 wouldn't actually end up being the Adventure Update after all. In fact, it was scaled right back down to basically just the pistons. Notch explained, "Me and Jens have been independently working on stuff for the Adventure Update, and it's been growing in scope as we've been working on it. That means it'll take quite some time to finish, but that it'll hopefully change the game a lot to the better. To prevent going too far between updates, we've decided to release pistons early. That means 1.7 will be released soon, containing only pistons and probably a couple of bug fixes. The Adventure Update will take however long it takes, and it'll be released as 1.8. It might be a long wait, but it'll be worth it." So for now, Beta 1.7 is just a smaller update, and we know that Beta 1.8 is probably going to be a pretty big game-changing update. And in fact, it turns out it was a pretty big game-changing update that divided the community. And we can talk about that a lot more when we do get up to Beta 1.8, but for now, I just want to focus on the content of Beta 1.7. Beta 1.7 also introduces a few texture changes as well, and I want to have a close look at some of these. Perhaps we can illustrate one behind me here, because there are two blocks here which have changed. In fact, if you look closely, you can see that both the cobblestone and the brick texture have changed. Both have been softened somewhat, and in fact, what I can do is a little bit of movie magic. If I just... There we go. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the textures from Beta 1.6, and on the right-hand side, Beta 1.7. You can see that the cobblestone texture has kind of moved around a bit, and the darker layers in between the pebbles have been lightened up and softened, and maybe it looks a little bit more cartoony now, I don't know. And the bricks have certainly changed as well. They're a little bit lighter now, whereas before they were significantly darker. And I don't know if these changes are good or not, I guess that's up to you. But this isn't the first, and it won't be the last time these textures are tweaked and modified. Now I want to go and have a look at a couple of the others. Here's another fascinating little one which I discovered as I was comparing differences between these two versions. This change has to do with farmland, or more specifically, I think it has to do with blocks that are less than a full size that share the same texture as another block which has a full size. For example, farmland shares the same side block texture as dirt, and in fact, when you till the soil, you'll see the difference between Beta 1.6 and Beta 1.7. So here's a side-by-side comparison. Let me show you exactly what happens. Let's till the soil. In Beta 1.6, the entire texture moves down because the top of the block is now 1 pixel lower than what it was before, whereas in Beta 1.7, the top pixel row is actually shaved off, and I think that it looks a lot cleaner because it doesn't appear like the whole block is changing texture. It just looks like the top layer is being shaved off, which is kind of what's happening. So let me show you again. We'll do it one more time. There you go. I hope you saw that because I found that just to be a fascinating little change. And I think this might have to do with the way that non-full blocks are handled in the game, because let's take a look at this. Beds and cake. What better combination could there be? Well, actually, there were some changes made to the textures of these two particular block types, and to have a look at this more closely, we're going to have to dig into the texture files. Let's bring up the terrain.png texture file from Beta 1.6.6. Well, that's a bit busy, so let's just reduce it down to the textures we care about. There. Cakes and beds. That's much better. Notice though, in Beta 1.6.6, the side textures for the bed and the cake align from the top of the texture square and work their way down. But if we compare to Beta 1.7, notice that these textures now align themselves from the bottom of that texture square. This makes a whole lot more sense now. The textures inside the grid are now aligned properly with how that block would appear in-game. And this probably simplifies the game's entire texture mapping system, making it easier for the game to determine how each texture should wrap around each individual block. You know, anytime the game introduces a new quality of life change, I get really excited. For example, building these fence poles here is quite tedious up until this version, and I'll show you why. In previous versions, if you place down a fence post like this, it's not possible to place another fence post on top of it. So the way that you would have to build one of these poles is you have to build up your dirt structure a little bit like so, and then you would place a fence on the top and then break the dirt and then place another fence here, break the dirt, and build kind of downwards like this. And that gets really annoying. Well, apparently in Beta 1.7, it is now possible to place blocks on top of fences. So what does this actually mean about building poles? Can I now place a fence post and then place another one above it? Yes, I can. Oh, that is so good. I'm so happy about that. I don't need to build fences like this with dirt anymore. I can just build them. What a shame, I've already built most of the fences that I need. Oh well, it's still a good change. Although this isn't. Why is it still so slow breaking fences with an axe? Wait, so does this mean that... This changes everything. You know, because around this time Minecraft's development was very much ongoing, there are some times when something makes its way into the version of the game which wasn't actually intended to be in this final release. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the adventure update was kind of reduced, just down to the pistons and a few other minor changes that we've seen. But in this version, a new mob texture snuck its way into the game, which gives us some insight about what might be to come. And let's just have a look at it, shall we? Here it is in its unraveled form, and what could it be? Well, the clue is in the name. The name of this texture file is silverfish.png. So this gives us some kind of insight as to what changes are coming up in the next versions of the game. Hey boys. Oh, come on game, where are all the sheep? Here, sheepy, sheepy, sheepy. Honestly, I have been wandering around this area now for about 15 minutes, just trying to find some sheep. Why does the game never give you what you actually want? Aha! Finally! I was about to give up. I can't believe it. One sheep. Okay, sheep, you should be enough for this demo, I hope. Now, why do I need a sheep? Well, there has been a change made to how sheep drop wool. Previously, you would just walk up to a sheep and punch it or kill it, and whenever you punch it, it would drop its fleece into a wool block, or if you kill it, it would also drop some wool blocks. And previously, it would drop between 1 and 3 wool blocks whenever you killed it or whenever you punched it. But unfortunately, it's no longer possible for sheep to drop wool if you punch them. See, just like that, it stayed just as it is. It probably lost some health, but when I punched it, it no longer dropped a wool block. However, if I punch this sheep to death, or if I kill it by another means, it will drop 1 wool block. Just a single wool block, so no longer a drop of between 1 and 3. But there is a way for me to make a sheep drop more than 1 wool block without even killing it. Now, the way that we do this is by crafting a brand new tool, and that tool is the shears. And we craft up the shears by putting 2 iron ingots in the crafting grid like so, and we get ourselves some shears. Look at those babies, there they are. Okay, now the biggest trade-off here is that although it's a little bit more inconvenient now because I have to go off and craft the shears and carry them around, when I shear you, you have a chance of dropping between 2 and 4 wool blocks. Previously it was between 1 and 3, now it's between 2 and 4 as long as I use the shears. So let's give this a try and see how many you give me. No sound effects on the shears just yet, and you only gave me 2 blocks. That is the minimum drop, but you know what? That's okay. I forgive you. I don't know what just came over me. I do feel kind of guilty about that because there's still no way for a sheep to grow its fleece back. Although Jeb tweeted something about this, all animals will be more persistent soon, so regrowth of wool will be necessary. This is actually a deleted tweet, but it's been preserved on the archive.org Wayback Machine. I think it was deleted because the development team were trying to stop leaking spoilers about the upcoming adventure update. Yen said, "By the way, I agree with Reddit that we should try to keep adventure-related features more or less spoiler-free. What do you think?" Notch replied, "Yes, I do agree. And since I don't have access to SVN while I'm gone, what's our strategy for avoiding conflicts?" Okay, well, that's developer speak for working out how to prevent their code changes from clashing with each other. This isn't the sort of conversation you'd expect to see so openly on the internet, at least not anymore. Jeb, responding to that secrecy issue, said, "We'll communicate on Twitter in the secret pirate language." I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Hold on. Give me that script. Okay, let's have a closer look at this. Might need to take my glasses off for this one. Yoya gog yoya bobo baror popa sosho hiror sos nonu. Pirate language, eh? Well, not far off. We've cracked the code, and this happens to be a little Swedish cryptolect known as Ravarsprocket. I'm not a native Swedish speaker, so I'm sorry if I butchered that. But this is kind of like an English Pig Latin. In this case, every consonant is doubled and an O is inserted between them. So if you were to remove all of the nonsense, this translates to Jagjabar par Shears nu. That's the best I can do. I'm sorry. No more Swedish for me. But in English, that's I'm working on shears now. I'm glad that's over. Oh wait, it's not. Because Notch replied, "I'll just translate it for you. It means, perfect, I fixed the clay bug. We'll add labels on items now." The clay bug, we'll come back to that a little bit later on. But boy, I'm glad we can move on from this right now. So where were we? Yes, shears. In a tweet that hurts your brain just a little bit less, Jens explained what the shears would be used for. So now we know that the shears will have multiple purposes. Shears can be used on sheep, leaves, that's great, something we'll need to check out soon. TNT, wait, what? TNT? And a secret 4th thing? Okay, we need to dig into these a little bit further. We already know about the sheep thing, and I'm going to come back to the leaves a little bit later on. But TNT? Turns out Jeb had the idea of using the shears to extinguish a lit TNT block, because up until this point, it hasn't been possible to remove a TNT block once it's been placed down somewhere in the world. Using the shears to defuse a lit TNT would also kind of bring back some behavior that the game used to have back in Classic, where you still had to punch a TNT block to ignite it, but once it was priming, you could punch it again and it would drop and turn into a TNT item. That feature was removed at some time during Classic, and since then the only real way to get rid of any placed TNT is by flooding it with water and setting it off. And I think this whole TNT thing is kind of counterintuitive too, because TNT is the only block like this. Every other block in the game will break if you punch it or break it with a tool, except of course TNT. That means that a careless player could easily set it off by thinking that they could just punch it to break it. Oh dear. So I think the idea of introducing the shears with the ability to defuse TNT must have been a way of trying to solve this problem, but it's not really a solution. It turns out that the community feedback ended up giving Jeb other ideas. So in Beta 1.7, it's no longer possible to ignite TNT using just your fist. So I think we've got to go and test this out for ourselves. Now test number 1 is going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to see what happens when we break the TNT block with our fist. Of course, in previous versions this would have ignited the TNT, but here in Beta 1.7, we just get our block back. Of course, now one of the ways that TNT can be ignited is by redstone. So if I flick this lever here in front of me, ooh, ouch. Time for our final test, I think, and that involves the Flint and Steel. All I need to do is ignite the TNT with my Flint and Steel here, and the way that I need to do that is with a left click, not a right click, a left click. So let's do it, shall we? Oh, this is gonna hurt. Oh, cameraman blew up too. So I think those changes to TNT make a lot more sense, although I do think it would still be pretty cool if you were able to defuse the TNT with some shears or something, almost like cutting off the wick. That would be a pretty interesting little addition to the game. We also know that you can use shears on a sheep to obtain wool blocks, like these 2 green ones here in front of me, but Jeb also thought it would be a great idea, again based on community feedback, to use shears as the default tool for mining wool blocks. So here I'm going to punch this one down and you'll see how long it takes. About that long. And now if I use shears, oh, that's so much quicker. I reckon 3 times quicker. So it's always great to see those little quality of life changes making their way into the game. Now, one of the other things Jeb mentioned was that there was a secret 4th use for the shears, and I think I know what it is. Remember back in Beta 1.5, they added the Cobweb Block into the game. Even though the texture had existed all the way back since Survival Test, the block was added into the game, but there was no way to obtain it within the world yet, and there still is no way to obtain that block legitimately within the world. So I've put some into my inventory here by modifying my inventory outside of the game, and I've just done this for testing purposes because we want to investigate the changes, right? So this is the only way that we can do this right now. So I have my shears here, and so if I remember correctly, if you break a cobweb with your fist, I think in Beta 1.5 it dropped the cobweb, so the block drops itself. So let's see what happens in Beta 1.7. Oh, that is so slow. Why is it so slow to break a cobweb? Is it because it's sticking to my fingers and, you know, being all gross? I don't know, but that's taking a long time. Okay. It's almost there. Ah, right. Okay, so that's confirmed. Breaking a cobweb with your fist drops nothing. Now, I believe if I break a cobweb with my sword, the current behavior is that it will drop string, or at least that's what it was before. I think we need to investigate this. Yes, okay, so it's possible to obtain string with your sword, and I believe now the same is true of shears. If we use shears on the cobweb, it will also drop string. So let's have a look. It does, it drops string. So sadly, no way to obtain a cobweb from a cobweb, but that's just how it is. Although, you know, if shears were added as the tool of choice for making cobwebs drop string, what happens if you use, say, an axe? Yeah, I'm going to go so far as to say nothing is going to happen. So it looks like the two tool choices you have are the shears or your sword in order to get string from your cobwebs. Oh, saving the best for last, baby, because it is now possible to obtain leaf blocks with shears, and this is the one I've been looking forward to. I can finally restore my hedges. I've been looking forward to that for months. Anyway, let's go up to this tree and see exactly what happens when we break the leaf block with the shears. Oh, that was so fast, and look at that. We get our leaf blocks, and we should just be able to place them on the ground like this and make ourselves some bushes. This is amazing. This changes everything. What? No. Don't tell me they degrade. What is the point of that? What is the point of being able to obtain leaf blocks if they just disappear? No. Let me tell you something, that is really disappointing, but I can completely understand why. I mean, the shears are giving you the ability to break the leaf blocks off of the tree like this, but at the same time, they're still susceptible to the exact same leaf decay mechanics that exist for every leaf block within the game. So I really hope that soon the game will give you the opportunity to place a leaf block, and for every leaf block that is placed in the world by the player, it won't break down due to leaf decay. That would make things a whole lot better. Wow, this is so noisy in my ears because all of that leaf crunching sound. Anyway, I think it will be possible to use the leaves in decorative ways. So for example, if we have a log block close to the leaf block, we should be able to fool the game into thinking that it's a tree. So for example, this is a terrible spot though, because normally you wouldn't see some bushes there, but let's say over here in the corner, we have something like this. You know, we've got a few bushes here like this. Now, because we have the trunks there, the log blocks there, these leaves should think that they're attached to a tree, and I don't think they should decay. In fact, I probably would have expected one or more of them to disappear by now if that were the case. So maybe what we can do here is hide some logs in the general vicinity of where we want to make some bushes, and that way the game will still think that these are valid locations for the leaf blocks to exist. And there we have it. I think that looks pretty good, actually. You can barely tell that there are logs underneath all of these leaf blocks here, which make up a little hedge in front of the town hall. And it has actually revealed one little flaw in the way that I built this. Now, when I built this wooden square ring that goes around the outside of the square here, I just followed the natural curve of the landscape. So you can see that it's actually a little bit higher over here, and then it steps down by half a block here, and then it steps down by another half a block here, and then again it steps down over there by another half block. And that was just me following the natural landscape, and I didn't want it to be totally flat. I wanted to incorporate some of that natural landscape into the build. But look what I've had to do here. I've had to come over and compromise. And honestly, I think what I'm going to do here is probably just raise up this whole level by 1 and make the front of the town hall an even flat surface, because to me, this just looks a little bit too weird. But at least we've come up with a method for using the bushes now. So I'm going to be heading over to the art gallery soon, I think, and fixing up all of my hedges there. This is definitely an easier method than the original way that I had to grow them, so I'm quite pleased about that. And then I'll probably spruce up this area around here a little bit more because, you know, bushes just liven things up a little bit and make things look all pretty and nice. But look at that, the sun's going down, and it means that it is the end of today's episode. So, thank you very much for watching. I want to say an extra special thank you to my patrons as well. And of course, check the description box down below where you can find links to my Discord, links to my Patreon, and all of those other kinds of things. But until the next episode, this has been bugmancx. You've been watching Minecraft The Journey. Bye-bye.